Welcome back to the Talos and Tech Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Rick and Randy, our favorite co-hosts. How are you guys doing today?
You know what, Mr. Mandy, I was really excited that you're joining us today from this beautiful studio, might I add. Like, we didn't get to talk about that because we had like dub reactions to get through. But Randy, good job with your studio. It looks strikingly similar to your last one.
That
Bravo.
means
Well done.
the task was done. The homework was completed then at that point. Because what you guys haven't seen since I've been out here is the chaos of having family nonstop out here and having no time to myself to unpack things. But I have been unpacking, and slightly off frame is you don't see all of this mess. So
lots of cardboard. I got rid of a lot of cardboard this week too.
My goodness,
there was a lot.
But yeah, The Office. I wanted some continuity with familiarity, and I didn't want to culture shock you guys or our visual audience.
Thank you.
That
I would have been
I am
really
not
worried.
culture shocked.
I actually was gonna shave my head and mustache and just look like a big old thumb.
Wow.
Nick is culture shocking me right now.
I am
'cause he's
very,
somewhere else.
I'm very uncomfortable right now. This is exactly what I'm talking about.
We're recording on location today, so sorry about any fan noise, because I've switched the AC off in the hotel room on the little control panel, but it's still going. So
On location,
Oh.
yeah. Nick is outside my house right now, and he just won't leave me
We're
alone.
staking it out. We're trying to figure out where he lives.
He won't
Trying
leave
to
me
get
alone
inside.
about it. It's like, Randy, install the betas.
That's the question. Yeah.
Betas?
been
What
floating
betas?
Yeah.
Brick any devices this week?
That looks very bad. So I have a question for you guys in regards to these betas. I have purposely held out until today's episode, or today, at least of recording, because I wanted you guys to give me personalized feedback on both your experiences, because I was
should be
reluctant. After watching the keynote, I was like, hey, I feel like Monterey, I almost said Mojave, these M's, man.
Dude, you don't know how many times I've done that.
Oh my goodness. So I was like, Monterey was the highlight for me. I feel like it stole the show. And Drew was like, I think iOS. And I'm thinking, yeah, actually that's a strong runner up. It's competing, but I was overall just it's like this for me. So with that, I was thinking about putting the beta on my only iPhone. No, actually that's a lie. Why would I lie to you so
have your
comfortably?
11.
It's the only one that I
lie to
use. So liar! You turn her against me. So
Deception.
I'm not a witness
Yeah.
of your wife, but after what you said to me, I'm not
iOS, and I know that.
Doing Star Wars, he's doing
Princess Bride. Yes.
Love it. Yeah, I always do Star Wars as the default. So I feel like iOS, and this is where I'm going to give you guys open floor to just give me feedback. I feel like iOS is safe enough to install the beta. And I know you're reluctant, Drew, even though you're tempted. And Nick, I know you've done it. I would like feedback on macOS. I am completely indifferent about iPad. I'm still very much mourning. So I'm still butthurt. So I don't want to talk about iPad today. I just want to talk about macOS and iOS and your guys' experience. Go.
Okay, well, my experience, because everyone already knows Drew's experience. He made some video about it or something.
This is your time now.
Oh, this is my time. I'm taking it. Yeah, so between, not Mojave, Monterey and iOS 15 with the iPhone, I think that I have enjoyed using Monterey more than I have enjoyed using iOS 15. Now, part of that reason is because Monterey is exactly what I was asking for. I loved Big Sur's design. I loved, everything about Big Sur, but what I wanted was a little bit more color and a little bit more materiality, I guess, being able to have like those transparencies. I feel like with this new RGB, pink to purple background, my Mac just feels amazing. And there's some extra transparency in some of the apps and stuff, which is kind of nice. Also, the stability has been absolutely phenomenal. I have to say, bravo to you, Apple. Bravo to you, engineers. Like, this is a very stable first beta. Like, I was expecting... I have the Cube at home, and I was going to leave that one as my primary driver for macOS stuff, and I was just going to test it out here on the MacBook Pro. So I was kind of expecting to have to nuke this and get it back onto a more stable version of Big Sur. But since I've installed it, which was, we're coming up on a week at this point, at almost, I guess, 5-6 days,
Right.
I have not encountered a single downtime bug on this Mac. Now, I define downtime as like a long hang or like a need to force restart or like, a major glitch. The two issues that I found over the 5-6 days of using this as my primary computer, I'm on a trip right now. I did not bring my cube. We're running this all off of Monterey. So if this show doesn't have any video from my side, then I guess we'll get to blame the beta. The only
if you're not watching this, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
If you don't hear me, it didn't happen.
It did not do good. But assuming
But
it's
if you do hear us,
done well. Yeah,
it is working.
Good job on the beta. So the two issues that I have had, Safari force quit on me once. I was live streaming. I had Logic open. I had Final Cut open. I had multiple projects in Final Cut open. I think I probably ran out of RAM, and the RAM swap, missed something, and Safari force quit on me. So that was, an issue. I was live streaming. I was reading the chat. Just have it disappear. That was an issue. But again, super, super minimal issue. Like the stream didn't stop, obviously, because it's going through OBS. So that was, a small issue. The other issue, which is slightly bigger, but I found a pretty good workaround, at least on this beta, is Final Cut. If you edit in it and have it open for a long time, it will only export stuff with the green channel. So it won't have the red or the blue channel. So all of my videos were just exporting as just green. And I was like, no, this has happened. Drew said it was going to happen. Oh, no. I need to just go back to the cube. But
it happened once. I don't know if it happens every time.
It happened twice for me in a row. And so I was kind of bummed. Okay. And I was like, man, I got to go back to Big Sur now. This isn't going to work because, Final Cut's important. But I figured out if you just force quit Final Cut and reopen it, it exports just like normal. So I don't know what the bug there is, but there's a small bug there. It's not a huge deal. Force quitting and reopening Final Cut on an M1 Mac takes maybe 15-20 seconds max. So it's not that big a deal. And so, so that's Monterey for me. iOS 15, I guess I just haven't really... I honestly have not had the time to dink around with the focus feature much. But I think that is the single feature that's really going to change how I use my device. Because I've already set up a recording, and that's what we're using right now, a recording focus that mutes like all notifications, phone calls, text messages,
nice.
Like everything is muted. And when I click it on this device, it clicks on all of my other devices. And that's like mind-blowing feature, but super simple, right? Because normally, for people a long time listening to the show, if we forget to, mute a Mac or an iPad or something, and someone sends a text and you just hear in the background the loudest bing, and you're just like,
I know it's not me.
I know, it's never
I
you.
never have those on.
Okay. It's normally me.
Whether I'm recording or have nothing going on that day, I hate that sound. So the first thing I did when I set up my Mac is like turn off message notifications. My phone's always on silent. My iPad's always on silent.
So it's a me problem.
I was focusing for years.
Since Big Sur, I have always kept the do not disturb always on. So
I've found that sometimes doesn't work for me though.
It doesn't work for me when
like, you
guys FaceTime. I just open up iMessage and then I just see the little face, or I wait for my watch to be like, and I'm like, oh, there it is. All right. Otherwise, it's like because I get nothing on the Mac. So if there's a way I can customize that a little bit more, because there's some notifications that don't have to be loud, but I want the banner. I would like that to squeak through. And I know you can manually go through and do it, but it's like, I got my watch all the time. I got my phone, something. All right, so you have not tried iOS as much, but you are loving...
I've tried it quite a bit. It's my daily, but I just haven't messed around with the new features of it.
Well,
I will say that the battery life is about half of what it used to be.
Oh,
so
boy.
It is a little more than I was expecting. I find myself charging up for sure twice a day. Normally I could get by with one charge in a day, but for sure, by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it's charge time. Which reminds me, I should probably go charge this thing. we're at 47% right now.
Nice. I think it's safe to say you did not put watchOS on your watch?
I have not, but I was actually thinking about it just yesterday. Okay. I was sending a scribble thing from my watch, and I was like, oh, this would be kind of nice if I didn't have to, click the extra button. But it kind of seems like a dumb reason to do a beta.
Yeah. All right, Drew, your turn.
It's dangerous. I do not have the battery thing with iOS 15.
Oh, that's
I wonder
good.
if that's a focus problem, or something, because I have not touched the focus feature.
We're gonna
at
focus
all.
on draining this battery.
Yeah. But I did get
You're gonna
Nick
focus
focused
real
the
well.
other day.
You're gonna get
When
focused real well if you can't use
when I
your
was
phones.
recording my iOS 15 video and I wanted to show people how messages now show the face instead of the green icon, I was going to text Nick and I was be like, Nick, just send me a bunch of text messages real quick. And I opened the Nick message thread and it says, Nick has notifications muted with focus. And I was like, oh. I was
Oh,
like,
that's fine, Drew. I didn't get a text from you.
Ooh.
I just went to the next person in my list, which was Mike. If Mike was focusing, I would
Sorry,
have gone to Randy. So I just went to the next person, which was Mike, and I was like, hey, send me a bunch of texts. I want to show people what it looks like. But yeah, iOS 15's been super stable for me. Not very glitchy. I love the new Safari. The tab gestures feel like running your own little separate iOS within an emulator because you're swiping between the tabs, and it's so much easier to use with one hand, which for the 12 mini probably shouldn't matter. But even if you were on like a 12 Pro Max, I bet that, you know, the keyboard and the search bar and everything is right there, and switching in the tab button being right at the bottom now is just so much substantially better. And there's actually a lot of situations over the years where I've always thought, like, they should bring those buttons down. They should bring that closer to the button. I've always felt that way with Control Center, too.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like having to reach all the way to the top right corner. I wish they could. But there's a home bar there, so it's kind of tricky to navigate. I get it. But I was like, if there can be more apps where it's easier to use with one hand, I'm for it. And Safari I use pretty regularly. So that was, I think, after the update, the biggest noticeable day-to-day change I love. And I did do watchOS 8.
Brave.
I took the risk. I was like, you know what? If it happens, it'll be funny. If it bricks, I'll be like, okay, now I got a useless Series 6. Got to get a new Series 7 later this year. Or something like that. So I just put it on there mainly because I really wanted to try the portrait mode watch face. And it's not there.
Really?
It's not out yet.
Oh.
So
Well, that's
it's like,
good to know.
well, like, I got watchOS 8 for no reason. But there's a bunch of tiny little changes that I appreciate. I think I referenced it in my iOS 15 video before I got the beta, and I didn't realize they made this change. But when you get a text, instead of the big green circle, it shows the profile picture of the person
that's
who
nice.
texted you. Which I've always wanted since like the first watchOS. I was like, I don't need a green icon. Just show me who it is. That's how we identify people from their face. So now when I get a text, it's just, you know, there's the face and the name and everything. And I was like, that's a nice change. The UI is tinkered pretty heavily. The email has like different heading. The individual mails have this like blue backdrop now. And I love that there's just a search box when you want to text somebody. And you can send GIFs now straight from the watch. There's just a little iMessage search box. You tap that, you go straight into Scribble, or you can dictate it. It's so much smarter. So much of the changes with watchOS 8, I've been like, why didn't they do that before? I don't get it. But anyway, I'm pretty happy with it. It's been very stable. I have not noticed a hit in battery life, but a lot of people on Twitter have, so don't take my word for it.
Sure.
When everybody I was talking to was like, watchOS 8 kills my watch like twice as fast or 3 times as fast. But I've had extreme luck, I guess, with the betas. But iOS 15, because it's on like a personal device and I don't really use my iPhone for work very much, that's why I was okay giving it the full beta, and I don't really have a backup iPhone if something goes wrong. So I was just like, you know, I can still do all my work stuff via iPad and my Mac. So as long as those two are on stable public releases, I think I'm okay taking the risk with my watch and phone. And I just, over the years, I've never really had a cataclysmic beta experience other than the Mac one. But like, yeah, with iOS, I've never had like a bricked dev beta, or I never had a watch that was bricked. I was like, it's the Series 6. Like, this is the latest generation one. It'd be fine. If you're on a Series 3, that's when I would say, ooh, be way more careful with the dev beta, because that's a much older, much slower CPU, and that's something you should be prepared for. I think that, generally speaking, newer devices should feel more comfortable with it, because that's probably what it's primarily optimized for, and then they work their way backwards. But, yeah, I've really loved all the changes with iOS 15, with messages, with... I haven't been able to use any of the new FaceTime features yet. It just the app crashes whenever I open it. So I guess if you FaceTime a lot, on the iPhone, I'll have to send out a warning. Not everyone's had that problem though.
I haven't had
I think
any
some were
problems
saying,
with
yeah,
FaceTime. Some of the new features don't work yet. Like they haven't made
Yeah.
screen sharing and stuff. But
yeah. So
So Drew,
overall, I'm pretty happy.
are
Yeah.
you gonna put macOS on?
I don't think so. I think someone said something about, I really want to try universal control, but I think
It's
you
not
have
out
to
yet.
have iPadOS 15. Oh, it's not out at all.
I haven't been able to get it to work.
Okay.
Well, your iPad
That's
just-
what I heard in the comment section as well. Because universal control is probably like my favorite new feature. And someone in the comments was like, well, it's not out yet. Like,
One
it's not on
mouse,
the beta.
one
So it's like,
keyboard.
Unless we're
That's
all
it.
too
What's
dumb
the
to
rush?
figure out how to turn it on. But like when you stick your iPad next to your Mac, you don't get like the little here. Like there's a little UI piece that like kind of made it aware that there was something else. But
well, I
it's not out
also,
yet.
don't you have to get iPadOS 15?
This is iPadOS 15.
Okay.
So-
Well, I'm not willing to get iPadOS
Yeah.
15.
Okay. Well,
And I'm almost ever is what I'm debating. I can't decide
Wow.
if I want to update the iPad at all,
Why? Why ever?
because I tried iPadOS 15 on the mini LED one, and the home screen feels like objectively worse to me now. Like it's a noticeable step backwards. For one, they've basically ditched the today view.
yeah.
So having the time be a big digital number and then having the widgets that you can scroll through, that feature is completely gone.
No, it's not.
Now, yeah, you can't do that anymore. Like, you can't pin those on the home screen.
Oh, I see. You still have to swipe over. Oh, wow.
You swipe over and that blurs your whole background
Huh.
and gives you another column of widgets.
I like
Yeah.
the today view.
I love the today view. I enjoyed it on iPadOS 13 or 14, and the nice thing about today view is you can have a bunch of widgets there and also have like up to 30 apps alongside those widgets. Now, if you want just a couple widgets on the side with iPadOS 15, you can only have like 16 apps. There's way more padding and there's way more buffer space in portrait mode. If you switch the iPad to portrait mode, it adds these bigger columns on the side. I guess Nick has always been the type of person to not have any apps on the home screen, so it
I
doesn't
don't,
make a
yeah.
huge difference for Nick. But for someone like me, I loved having just one screen. Like on my current iPad, the older one, there's no second screen of apps.
Same.
All the widgets, all the apps are on the front page, so everything I can possibly use on the iPad is right when I unlock it. So I just unlock with Face ID, swipe up, there's everything. And now everyone's like, well, just go to App Library, or, oh, no, I guess I got to get these widgets out of there to have this many apps, or I got to get rid of them. So to me, it feels half-baked. It feels like they didn't put much thought into it because the widgets are still way too big.
Yeah.
I still don't really use many widgets on my iPhone. I use like one for stocks, and that's it. And they're still not interactive, and they take up way too much space on even a 13-inch display. It's like, oh, I want to put a widget here. Oh, that takes up 4 apps. Like, we have to get rid of 4 spaces for regular apps just for that one tiny widget that's not even very useful or practical. And so now I'm like, I'm going to have to rearrange everything if I update to iPadOS 15. Now I got to put a bunch of stuff in the library and put a bunch of stuff on the second screen. I can't scroll through my widgets. And I don't know. I'm now more offended by iPadOS 15 than anything because it doesn't even feel like an objective upgrade. I feel like it's
I
a step
am offended.
backwards. I was hoping it would get more practical and more applicable. Now it's getting worse.
Kidding. Oh God.
I'm like, oh.
Oh no. Well, I feel like iPad is such a letdown this year, guys. I'm just
Yeah.
like, because right now, how iPad is on this operating system, or the one we currently have, is I like today's view, and like you, Drew, I have all my apps right there. I got my top apps on the top, and then I got folders on the second half that I can mitigate and get to whatever I need to, and then it's just that it's clean. It's a utility device. So it's safe to say I won't be doing FaceTime then on it. I guess I did not know they took away the today. I use the today view all the time. It's my side monitor, so to say, that I have underneath my main monitor. So if you could do expanding your desktop, if this was going to be a macOS possibility, then instead of dragging left or right, for me it's drag up or down. So my iPad sits on the bottom, and I had my big monitor on top here. But I always have it open.
We're not entirely sure if this universal control thing is going to work when attached to an external monitor. Are we?
That's
like I feel like it's gonna. A lot of this seems to be contextually based, right? Like it looked like his iPad was next to his Mac, and it knew that, and his Mac was next to his iMac, which knows where everything is, right?
Yeah.
I don't really even know if it's going to work on the Cube or the Mac Mini. Like I don't know how this technology is going to work.
I read a little bit about it.
Oh,
what did you read?
From what I read, I forget who was talking about it. Someone from Apple. It might have been Craig, but I think it's trying to use contextual awareness of what devices you used last, and then if you put your mouse on the left side of the Mac, it assumes you're coming to the right side of the iPad. So,
okay.
It's not using any ultra wideband tech, but I also wonder how that works. So does that mean if I go off to the right side of my Mac, it'll start coming out the left side of the iPad, like it'll like loop itself or something? Maybe he did say something about like it'll be controllable within the display settings, so you'll be able to arrange like the iPad is here, the Mac is here. So, but by default, it will do its best to assume. So I think it'll work pretty seamlessly. I think it should work with an external monitor because it's not relying on any hardware in the Mac itself. It's just seeing, oh, your mouse is going to the left, so show up on the right of the iPad. And as long as you're putting it right next to the Mac, either side, it should work pretty well. I'm very curious to try it, but I don't want iPadOS 15.
You know why I don't want iPadOS 15? It's because after watching, I had time to sit. Like, what else is bothering me? They didn't put a calculator on there.
Nope. 11 years. I still use Spotlight. Do you use the Spotlight calculator?
Yeah.
I do that quite a bit. But the weather thing is funny because you have this giant weather widget now.
Yeah.
And they've also completely redesigned the weather app on iOS 15, which is really cool. And you have this map view, and they give you all these little precipitation and wind speed widgets. And I was like, you could display all of this content on a really well-optimized iPad display without having to scroll through anything. If they just give you, like, here's the week, here's throughout the day, and here's all the AQI and all these other things. But no, can't do that. No, that's too much. At this point, I'm very confused why they decided to give iPadOS a separate name.
Yeah.
It genuinely just feels like iOS at this, like they're barely changing it. They're taking away iOS features.
2020 information made iPad OS feel like a standalone OS. This year, 2021, feels like we went back to 2018.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah.
It feels like I got a cool looking hardware device with cool features, but the software's not there yet. And 2019 is like, oh, we're getting closer. And then 2020 is like, oh my God, look at this with the
now
keyboard.
We got even better hardware. M1.
Yeah, like this is it. 2020 made me go, oh, the iPad could be my genuine like final standalone device of work. And then, of course, you're not. You have to find a reason to brick me. Like,
of course.
I like it's. What frustrates me is because even in the keynote, like they allude with screenshots and stuff that they have up there, they allude to the fact that people use the iPad for more than just web browsing, YouTube, and like they had the
they show it with the Pro display.
Yeah.
They had the Ferrite app about podcasting. Look, now you can run podcasts over this. Like, oh,
like,
so you mean
I'm
you
sorry,
could create?
but Ferrite was not a great app. It did what it needed to do, but for $20, it was not a beautiful app, and it was not fun to use. So like Apple getting up there and saying, you can use amazing apps like Ferrite. And I just like instantly had like PTSD over like all of the months where I was trying to edit the shows in Ferrite, which granted I could do it. It wasn't like it was physically impossible, but it was just a poor implementation. And I put that on the third-party developer, not on Apple. But it's just sad when Apple is trying to pitch this device as like a pro device in one breath, and then also just showing it with like the software that I've used, and it's objectively worse than Mac software. So
you can edit movies in iMovie. No.
Yeah, no.
All I really wanted was progress, you know? Like I really acknowledge and can attest from my own experience, I think we all can, that you can do some basic stuff with the iPad, whether it's photo editing, whether it's some light video editing. It's been capable of that for many years. Like, again, I was doing YouTube videos that were performing pretty well solely off the iPad in 2015, way back in high school. It was capable of doing that before the mouse, before USB-C, before Face ID, before all that stuff. Yeah, you could do the basic photo editing and the video editing. You can do some light tasks with the iPad. We know that. But I was hoping after 5 or 6 years it could kind of expand to something more.
Right.
Expand to something. Let's start looking at this as more of an enterprise tool, especially if we're going to be charging over $2,000 for it.
Totally.
You know, like if we're just keeping the iPad to a sub $1,000 tablet, iPadOS I think is fine. For someone who buys the $300 iPad or even the mid-range iPad Air, iPadOS gets that demographic fine. But if we're going to make pros like this, if we're going to make super expensive devices, I'm not against the iPad getting more expensive. I just think that should come with more capability. And so far, it has not expanded past that, like the basics. Just like at DubDub, we got like Swift Playgrounds. You could submit apps from Playgrounds, but full Xcode. No,
by the way, that's only Swift UI. You can't do
it's very
anything else.
It's like patting a little kid on the head. It's like, yeah, good job, iPad. You can do coding now. Good for you. You can run iMovie. I'm so proud of you. You know, and I was just messing around with, I hate to bring it up again, but the Red Komodo was a lot of fun filming with. And we have this fancy preview monitor to hook up to the Red. And I was thinking, this is an M1 chip, which is insanely powerful, insanely fast, inside a mini LED extreme dynamic range display.
With a Thunderbolt port.
With a Thunderbolt port. If Apple wanted to turn this into something that could be used by even more, that people would be confident, you know how much that little 7-inch display we hooked up to the Red cost?
$300?
It was like $2,000.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Because it gets super bright.
Yeah.
Because it has really high nits and it can be viewed outdoors. But it's a touch interface. It has like an accelerometer built in. So if you flip the camera upside down, the preview. It's a fancy screen. But I was like, Apple, people will pay what they need to pay if they have something that can truly change the game. And I think a lot of people misunderstand my argument. I'm not trying to turn the iPad into a Mac. I'm trying to suggest that it should be something better. It can do more than a Mac. It's got the hardware for it. And I'm saying, I'm not even trying to limit it to just turn the iPad into a Mac. I'm saying, no, turn the iPad into something better than what it's already been for many years. Because software-wise, it has not gained, in my opinion, much more functionality other than like, oh, Safari grabs the desktop version now, yay, or the basic stuff like that. But if we could like hook up this display directly to the Red, view the content with high nits, with high dynamic range in real time, record high bandwidth footage directly into your timeline, and now you can edit that footage right off the preview monitor. Like, there is such a huge market potential for that kind of hardware. It's incredible. And it's so limited by, but it's iPad. iPad can't do more than that. iPad is not allowed to do that. So there's just so many situations I could envision the iPad being more than a Mac, better than a Mac. Not just strictly by turning it into one. Just it has more. Give it more.
So I guess like Apple's comeback to that statement, Drew, is probably the developers need to be the ones who are pushing this forward, right? I feel like Apple's like, hey, we made this great piece of hardware. We're going to put some software on it that allows you to make whatever you want. And it's up to Red to make the Red editing application that allows you to plug into your Red Komodo, into your iPad Pro, and record via SSD right into the Red timeline on the Red editing app. And I feel like that's Apple's approach, right? Like, they're always kicking it to these third parties. And there are some stellar third parties out there, like LumaFusion, or like these kind of niche apps
Affinity
that find things. Yeah, Affinity Photo or Pixelmator. Like, there are some good apps out there, but I feel like Apple's answer to everything that the pros are asking for is like, oh, third party app, or oh, the third parties will figure that out. And it's like, yes, they might given time, and I appreciate the anti-competitiveness of that. I'd rather not see LumaFusion die by bringing Final Cut over. They're a great app, but at some point you got to just be like, this has so much potential, as you're saying. It has all of the power, all of the I/O, all of the beautiful screens. It's simply limited by Apple's willingness to make professional applications and enable the third-party space, and not just like small indie third parties. Like, Ethan was working, our app developer was working on the Talos of Hub app a long time ago. He was working on a video editing app for the iPad, and he got pretty far. He got like timelines and scrubbing working and stuff, but like outside of that kind of indie space, we need like a big company like Red or Blackmagic to like port DaVinci Resolve onto iPad, or we need like the third parties that actually matter, the big ones, the name brands. Heck, Photoshop took how long to get to the iPad? Like they announced it in what, 2018, I think, 2019
It's like
maybe?
2 years or something.
Yeah. And
But it's not even up to
time.
them necessarily, because iPadOS is still not going to support the Red codec. So Red can make
True.
their own app and customize it all
That's
they
why
want.
I'm saying
but
it needs
if
to be Apple,
iPadOS
not
can't
these
play
big
it,
companies.
and same thing with ProRes. Blackmagic and DaVinci Resolve is really optimized for those types of file formats. So if you don't allow it, it doesn't matter how much the third party might want it; they can't make it. iPadOS is still. That's why I've been trying to say a lot. It's not about the Pro apps. It's not about Final Cut. Luma's doing their best. Affinity's doing their best. It's ultimately comes back to iPadOS getting in the way, or microphone preferences. I was thinking for Logic and audio editing, you can plug in an external mic to the iPad, but you have no way of altering that signal. For me, whatever reason, it gets way louder and it's like peaking compared to my Mac, and I can go into settings and tinker it around and lower it. And the iPad's like, nope, I'm just going to accept it in one way, and that's it. And you can hardly even go to like input settings and say use this mic or use this mic. It just overrides everything. And yeah, it's a bummer, because I feel like the hardware has grown a lot over the past few years. It's gotten a lot faster. The displays have gotten better. The cameras have gotten way better. The Thunderbolt, the connectivity has improved. There's so much growth in hardware, and software has basically stayed the same in regards to functionality. It's just still the basic stuff. Yeah, you can do some light tasks, but you really need a Mac if you want to go for that pro market. And I guess we talked about it last week. It's essentially Apple's roadmap. Their fundamental vision for the iPad prevents it from being more than the basics, and they want it to be a Mac accessory, like with universal control. But I don't think it's going to hurt Mac sales or cannibalize Mac sales to make the iPad more. I think it's just hurting iPad sales.
What
overall.
would be the point of universal control anyway? I'm not going to drag and drop anything that has to go from here to there that iCloud wouldn't already do in my Photos app or Files app, or that's that. I mean, that's about it. There's nothing that I need to pull from iPad and bring it over to the Mac. That's a drag and drop. If I'm making a thumbnail in Over, for example, I airdrop that and I can put that right there. So that's an example where I can drag and drop maybe, but the way they featured it in the keynote, that you drag the actual thing within the app and cut all the way over, and then you just drop it in the timeline, and then there you go. I don't see me doing something like that with universal control. Universal control would be more of moving. It'd be more file management, to tell you the truth, than anything. It would just be file management, and that involves utilizing my desktop for Mac, and then bringing something over on the iPad, but the iPad doesn't have a desktop, so it really would not matter. And within the desktop anyway, it's already connected to iCloud Drive, so there's nothing different. But my drag and drop features would strictly be the same way I drag and drop audio and or video for these shows. It's file management. I'm moving something over to something else, and that would probably be the most convenient thing, but the software is so limited. I don't know. Hey Nick, I got a question for you.
For me, it's more control. Sorry, I'll end on
go
one
ahead.
point with universal control. So, like, I fit that demographic perfectly because I always have an iPad and an iMac. pretty much right next to each other at my desk at all times. So for me, it's not so much about file sharing as it is just I'm doing something over the Mac, whether it be, I only have 2 hands, so I'm never using 2 keyboards and 2 mice simultaneously. So I'm
wrong.
editing with OBS or doing something over on the Mac, and now, okay, time for the FaceTime call for the podcast. Now I can just not detach from this keyboard and mouse. I can just move the mouse over to the iPad, answer the call, connect to the AirPods, or I often will have Discord open on my iPad with Final Cut on my Mac. So if I see something in the Discord, hey, someone's wrong on the internet, I got to tell them. I move my mouse over.
Very important things. Urgent.
Click over to Discord, and I can kind of do that already with Sidecar.
Yeah.
It's just Sidecar is a bit more compressed. You can tell it's a bit of a strain on the Wi-Fi. If you do it wired, it's better, but then I have to have a wire going in the iPad and everything. So I prefer to not, because I like being able to pull the iPad away when I need to.
Yeah.
So for me, I genuinely would have thought about not getting the Magic Keyboard case if Universal Control was a thing back.
And this is exactly
year.
why I'm so pumped about Universal Control. I'm sorry, Randy. We'll get back to you. I promise. When I sold my 4th gen iPad Pro right after the event, I sold it with the Magic Keyboard, and I got my sister a laptop, and so now I have my other 3rd gen iPad back. Which, by the way, I'm not upgrading because this thing does everything that iPadOS could ever have it do. I am now.
I think we're all in agreement here on that one.
Yeah,
that the 3rd gen iPad Pro is
This was the best. This is the best $1,200 I've ever spent. I'm still 3 years later not wanting to upgrade this for another 2 years because this computer is exactly what I needed to do for iPad.
Could have taken my money, Apple.
Yep, you could have.
You could have.
It was sitting there, but
it was all in the software.
But yeah, so I definitely don't have a case for this at the moment, and so I was originally, before DubDub, I was gonna get another Magic Keyboard, but used on eBay because I'm like, this is just too inconvenient to just have this. But now with Universal Control, I'm like, okay, hey, well, I can cheap out and get one of the $80, smart cover things that do the little kickstand. Because all I really need it to do now is just prop up.
I have one. Do you want
it?
it?
Oh, you do? Yes, I'd love that.
I have an extra one.
Cool.
Okay.
Next time
we'll ship it out.
Next time you don't need it, let me know. Yeah, that'd be great. Because
right now.
Just leave the podcast. Go to the post office. All I need is just to have it propped up, and then now my MacBook's keyboard and mouse can also be that. So basically, if anything, Apple just saved me $350. Thank you, Apple, and thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, so I don't know why they released this feature and not more iPad things. If they're trying not to, hurt sales, this is not a good feature.
Yeah, this isn't helping.
All right, I'm sorry, Randy. We've gone on here for a while. What were you gonna say?
Oh, it's been so long. I'm like, I lost it. I remember. What Drew and I are seeing right now on you, is this the final video for YouTube?
Yes.
I really like how when you were doing things like, when people think about, and you just random thing, I like how everything's blurred but your face.
Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. I turned that on. Yes.
He's on portrait mode.
Yeah.
FaceTime.
So because I'm on the beta here, I turned the portrait mode beta on, which is kind of funny because naturally this is really bokeh because I'm at f1.4, but it's even more bokeh.
You did something, and all of a sudden everything was blurred but your face, and I was just like, this is uncomfortable. I'm watching your head is in focus but your neck, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about the new iPad feature when it comes to
just
Universal
a floating
Control.
head.
Yeah. Everything was just so blurred. I was like, okay.
So originally I was kind of confused on how that feature works, right? That's the blurring face thing in FaceTime. Basically, all it does is it finds your face, draws a circle approximately the same size, and blurs everything else out with
I noticed.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That's that Zoom style.
And I also noticed that when Drew moves his head, nothing's moving anymore. We're back to regular Drew.
I know.
You're back on regular. Yeah. I'll give you a hot take after switching back to the 3rd gen iPad Pro now. Mini LED is overrated.
Yes! Okay.
There's something. So, do you notice the difference? Yes. After 2 weeks, I think, of using Mini LED and then switching back to a non-Mini LED iPad, it's not that bad.
Good.
It's not as night and day difference as I would say maybe a non-laminated display. That's maybe I haven't used it extensively enough, but in the past when I switched to an older iPad where the display is detached from the glass and everything, I'm like, ugh, it looks weird. But this, I'll be honest, it's still a gorgeous, very, very beautiful display. It still gets very bright, and it's still, the black levels aren't as good, but they are pretty dang good. And I think that people have hyped up or exaggerated mini LED a bit too much in their mind. I mean, if it was doing, more XDR type stuff, if it was being used with cameras and being used as a monitor, then I could utilize that a bit more often. But if we're just like watching YouTube or looking at photos and doing the basics with the software it has, then mini LED's not that big a deal, to be honest. Like I noticed it, and I do appreciate it when it's there, but I think that if for some reason if new MacBook Pros come out this year and they don't have mini LED, that's not going to bug me. I think after using mini LED somewhat extensively, going away from it now, I'm like, I didn't have that 120 hertz hook, that I do with
because it already has
iPad.
it. Yeah,
it's already there.
It's
and
already
I'm
there.
like, you know what? This is a great display. This still looks really amazing. And if there was more pro software to take advantage of that mini LED display, I could understand it a lot more. But because it isn't, it's basically just your Apple TV Plus viewfinder. You play that HDR TV Plus show, and the brightness is like, look at me, I'm so bright. Sometimes when you set the brightness really low and then you play HDR content, I notice them dim everything else. Because sometimes we're watching content in a darker room, and it wants to show off all its range, so the brightness gets really high, and then it'll turn off all the menus and stuff get really like unnaturally dim. And I was like, is this really range? Or do you just want to flex how peak nits you can get, Like, are you just flexing, I'm so bright, look at me, I'm so bright?
It's like the smart kid in school. I'm so bright, listen to me.
Look at my range. I was like, I'm not super
last time I
impressed
said
by
that,
it,
I
so.
got suspended.
Ooh.
So
You can't get suspended.
I calibrated my Apple TV.
Ooh.
It did that thing where put your phone up.
Did you
and
notice a difference?
It made it a little bit warmer, but what my takeaway from it is that, oh no, my LG TV is just that good. It didn't need that much calibration. That was my takeaway from it.
It's the same story with my TCL.
It just made it a little bit warmer. It just at most.
Yeah, it was just slightly warmer.
Slightly warmer. And I was looking because it compared the beach overview.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so the sand looks a little bit more white. This one looks a little bit more beige. Wow.
I'll have to admit
Good
it was
stuff,
very
Apple.
slight, though. It was not substantially warmer.
No,
it
yeah,
was
yeah,
not
no.
like night shift warmer.
No,
It was-
you had to do the side by side where you're going.
Yeah, when it first came up and it was like, here's my color corrected version, I was like,
What changed? Yeah.
is that different? I was like, what happened? Yeah.
I
it was very
unfortunately will not be upgrading to the remote or to the anything because
Yeah, me neither.
I can't. You can't change input yet on the Apple Siri remote.
Oh. On the
Yeah.
TV?
Isn't that a TV problem?
Well, I mean, I would assume power and volume is also a TV problem, right? So, just if a signal gets detected, and the only time I do this is when I turn on the switch, I get the little input that pops that says input 1 is now on. If a signal gets detected, if I could hit OK or the whatever acknowledge button that is on like the LG remote and I click it, perfect. But a friend of mine, he has the new remote and he has an LG as well, and I asked him, can you try this thing for me? And he's like, sure. Gets back to me, goes, yeah, it doesn't work. I'm like,
Did he try the learn new remote thing?
I did not know
been
that's a
pretty
thing.
interesting.
Maybe I'm asking the wrong question. No, I will bring that up. Learn new remote. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, in remotes and devices, there's an option
gonna
where you
write
can
this down.
set it to the Apple TV. It's kind of interesting. This might not be a new feature. It might have existed for a while. But you can go into learn new device, and you take your old remote, and it says, like, press the right arrow, press the left, press OK, and the infrared signal that the remote sends, the Apple TV learns and hears.
Huh.
And then the Siri remote can emulate that signal That's because when I first plugged in my Apple TV, it did not, like, the Siri remote did not power it on and off or change volume. So when I went into learn new remote, I took my old remote, hold down the buttons. It was like press the mute button, press the volume button, press the up volume button, and all that. It learned the infrared signal, and then it could start doing it. So it's possible that if you go into learn new remote and put in the input things, maybe it can, but
if it can hit
I'm not
okay,
for sure.
if it can hit,
I believe it can.
I'm not trying to change the input because it's either default. Oh
Yeah.
crap! But I would have to. This is where trickery would come in because by getting off of the TV OS, and I'm talking the LG TV OS, not Apple TV
Yeah.
OS. Getting off of
This
that,
is why we need Home OS.
This is why you need.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Getting off of the TV's OS to moving to Apple's. It can only work about me changing between Apple TV and the Switch if the input comes up on the screen and it gives me the ability to hit OK. So the center button or whatever the acknowledge button would be. I think in that sense that would work. But
Okay.
I did not know that. I'll try that, and I'm going to try it with the remote I have now. It might not be a new thing, so
It
I
might
will
do something. Yeah.
let me look into that. That's interesting. If that can work, then the last 5-10 minutes of what I just said is completely null and void. I would actually probably upgrade my Apple TV because I like using the
Why not just the
AirPlay.
remote?
Yeah, don't you have a 4K Apple TV? Or is it
I don't.
1080?
It's 1080.
Okay.
Do you need a 4K one, or do you care? So yeah, just get the remote.
Yeah,
So
save yourself $100.
you asked me an honest question, and honestly, I don't care that much. It's cool to have the. I sit pretty close to the TV because I'm blind, so I like to see it. But maybe the blindness also blurs some of the pixels for me, where it doesn't matter. But I do notice a difference. It doesn't. It's not a deal breaker for me because most of the time I'm on YouTube. And YouTube, not everybody has 4K anyway, so I could care less. But the times
That's true.
the times I go on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever, I would like to have, the theatrical experience of everything's like and getting in your face, especially because
Lab mode.
I want plaid mode for my ears and eyes. And anyway, I mostly use it for YouTube over anything else. And if I was to just keep the Apple TV HD, I mean, my wife wouldn't notice a difference. She doesn't care. She doesn't care about resolutions like that. It's like, can I see the?
I don't
can I see
think
the
most
show?
people do. To be
Most
honest,
people don't. Yeah.
I'm still convinced even the average consumer can hardly tell between 1080 and 4K. So
No, it's when I want to
that's
get all
why-
pretentious and go like, oh, but
Yeah.
is it a 4K? Only I'm the person who knows, and that's because I'm being an ass about it. So what do I care? So
Yeah, I think that's why I laugh when people say like, well, 8K is the future. I'm like, you haven't even sold most people on 4K. That's still like a tech community thing. That's
Yeah.
not a everyday person has not
Yeah.
made the switch to 4K still.
That's funny.
And that's been around for a long time. It's
I'm
gotten
really-
a lot cheaper.
I'm really happy that they did not just for the sake of arbitrary. I'm glad they didn't update Apple TV.
They kind of did.
I mean TV OS is what I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad they didn't just
What did
randomly
they do?
throw nothing. I mean,
They had a home section in there.
It was TV
but my
cameras.
my
that's
calibration
why.
thing was just an iOS 14 something or TV 14 or whatever the heck they call it. I don't know anymore.
Right.
But they didn't just feel the need to give you dead spaces like now you can watch even more Apple TV Plus originals on this thing.
That's true. They did not play a bunch of trailers. I'll give them credit for that. They could have.
So it makes me feel like there's always going to be a service keynote or something again, like what we had last March, where
No.
it's no.
It's like 2 years ago.
Was that 2 years? It was 2. Oh wow, yeah.
Wow.
It was 19, yeah. That was bad, though.
That was.
I hated
bad.
that.
That was. Bad.
I did not like that event at all. Of all Apple events.
Yeah.
Where it was just ads after ads after ads, basically. I guess they're all
I mean,
ads,
I
but
think
less
most of the time
Every
us
keynote
Apple-
is an ad.
Yeah, I think most of the time us Apple should forget that every single one of these keynotes is an Apple ad. So when we saw everyone just
doesn't feel
pitching
like
their
it.
stuff, yeah, it never feels like it because we're just all like Christmas time, yay!
It's Craig.
except those leakers are like, whew.
Oh, let's switch to
Speaking
backup here.
of MacBooks, hi guys.
Oh, MacBooks.
Hi. I don't get what they're
Yeah,
doing.
I don't get
What-
it either.
like,
How are
what
we
is-
all
is
feeling
this
on
a
the
bit?
waiting till fall? Are they coming in August? How are we?
I don't think August. That's never
Okay.
happened, has it?
Well, they've
Has
had
there
like
been a-
minor MacBook Pro refreshes in August.
They
but
have.
never
They've
like
had
a-
keynotes in late August that would substitute.
I'm not sure about a keynote, but I know they've had like website refreshes of like,
No,
the new Intel whatever.
in
I don't know,
2015, 16? Wasn't that in
I'm
August?
I'm checking for the last August event we have documented.
I remember
has the
one
notes.
time being in Vegas and there was an Apple keynote,
Hmm.
and I thought I was in
Whoa.
Vegas in August.
I don't know if there's ever been one.
Quadruple U DC in 2006 was August 7th to 11th.
I was not in Vegas in 2006.
I was 8 years old. Yeah, I was not aware of Apple. Well,
They
you know
had
what?
a-
I probably did watch that one, actually.
They had an August dub. What?
That's the only one I can find.
2006.
The following year, it was back to June.
They must have got
So, yeah,
really
I don't
busy
know
with
why
with the iPhone or something that in 2006 that had everything got pushed. Maybe they were.
This is pandemic Apple. They're known to do weird things. You know, they didn't have an April event
That's
in
true.
like 10 years. So I don't know. They might do something weird like that, but I definitely wouldn't count on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is what's kind of upsetting is that the next normal Apple event would be in September. Most of the rumors right now are suggesting that the iPhones should be on schedule. So iPhone launch in September. But normally at that event we get like new Apple Watch, maybe some new AirPods or something, but that wouldn't really be the proper event to do a MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
That's more of a that's more of a professional grade event. So
Oh, sorry.
I have a feeling mass production issues and chip shortage and mini LED and everything is the reason that those MacBooks are probably not going to ship until October, which kind of sucks.
I
well.
I stand corrected on my. I had to go back to my memories here. September.
I love how we call
7th.
our photos memories now. Like it's not like pictures
I like when
or
I
my
get a
photo album.
notification.
It's just
I have a new
memories.
memory.
Yeah. It's like, oh wow, I forgot about that. Thank you, Apple. 2 weeks
Between
ago.
September 7th and September 10th, I was in Vegas of 2015, and that's when a keynote happened. So
That makes
I-
sense. That was Apple time. Apple.
this
iPhone
whole time, I thought I was there in September. My whole life's a lie.
We're in a
Time
big
is
stretch now. Did you get a chance to try lossless audio, Randy?
Ooh.
No, I have not. I haven't actually
Okay.
had. I haven't had time to do anything. My life returns to normal.
Okay.
Um,
I have not either. I was just curious.
Ask me next week because this coming Monday, my life goes back to normal. So
Because I believe it's out now. I believe it's working.
I'm seeing
I've
seeing
heard.
the I'm seeing the little badges or whatever when you go when I'm in Apple Music. I see
Yeah.
it there. It has not been a thing of guys, listen, when I tell you that I have not had time for anything,
I
that is
believe
not an exaggeration.
He is a busy guy. Hard to get hold of this guy right here.
Monday is my what is it? My refresh day is or my my launch day or my whatever, not launch, but everything
New
stops.
life can begin. Yeah.
Everything stops come Monday. So I have a to-do list which has gotten progressively larger of things that I wanted to do, try, maybe even install and update. Things that I've been wanting to make notes of, and I have a big focus on wanting to try some of this stuff with the audio things. I don't even I'm so disconnected right now from it. I don't know if I have the capabilities right now to create spatial audio, for example. And
I believe I read that tool is coming to Logic later, but I don't think it's out yet.
yeah, see that I'm that detached. I would not know. I know I have it as a note in my notes that tells me okay, be sure to experiment, do a song, spatial audio, see how this works. Things like that I'm curious about, and I want to really do a deep dive into all this audio nonsense. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you because it doesn't matter anymore. So
Okay,
it's not
so stop
it's not
lying, Randy.
it's
Nothing
not
matters.
it's not a surprise anymore. Had the information came out differently, I would have just randomly, you would have seen me on one podcast and I would have been wearing AirPods Max and I was going to buy them.
Ooh.
Really? When was this?
Leading up to believing that Lossless and all that could be played back on it. And when I found out that wasn't the case, I'm like, well, you're not gonna get money from me. And like this whole year, Apple, I'm trying to pay you something, and you just keep finding me reasons to just not. But I was going to do it. I was like, oh, well, this is now I get my studio grade headphones that I technically wanted. Now
So this was pretty recently.
It was recent, and then when they said that it wouldn't play back lossless, I was like, "What was the point? I'm not going to do it. I'm just why?"
This was not, I think, in their roadmap at all. I think
I'm so confused.
Spotify essentially was like, "Hey, we're going to get higher bitrate audio files," and Apple Music was like, "Oh, we don't want to lose people to Spotify, so we're also going to have high bitrate." It was not something
For
they thought
free.
much about.
Yeah.
For free, yeah. They were not planning like in the long term. Okay, let's launch $500 headphones, and then in a few months we'll launch lossless audio playback. Like, no, I don't think that was anywhere near. I think it was literally just competitors having a leg up on their music streaming that made Apple think, oh, we got to get this out quick. Hold on. Let's get it over with. And now they're like, maybe we should update our headphones or something. They're like, we might need to change this.
Yeah. Listen, when the Apple product, whether it's Beats, whatever it is, the Apple product that gives me lossless, I'm going to buy. Because then now we're talking studio grade stuff that I can.
You got HomePod Mini.
True. I do have HomePod Mini.
Those will do it. I don't know if that'll be a noticeable difference, but apparently Apple
I'm
said...
for the office, I'll just stick with my monitors that I have here. But I
bought my OG HomePod in here. It's on my desk now.
Does that do
that poor relic?
Does that do hi-fi or high bit rate?
I don't think so.
I think it is supposed to in a software update, but I don't have Apple Music, so...
Oh, yeah, me neither.
It's pretty pointless.
I keep forgetting about that. Like, all of these, like, FaceTime features.
It's
you
a
can
desk
listen to
ornament.
music with your friends. I'm like,
silly
I don't have
boy.
Apple Music anymore. Sadness.
Can Randy listen to music and then share play it with us?
Yes.
Ooh. Come on, Apple.
That'd
I
be
was
kinda
basically watching SharePlay thinking, is this piracy? You just like...
Yes.
No, it's
Can you meet
changed
with-
since 2004 or whenever.
You can have 30 people on a FaceTime call or something.
Uh-huh.
So if you just went on some Reddit and like created a FaceTime link and shared it with 30 people, now we all get to listen to Apple Music for free, or you just
Actually,
gotta put up with their faces or something. I don't know.
that's no different. That's no different than going on YouTube and playing those like live radios of like lo-fi or whatever they have going on.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
But now through Apple Music, if you click that link, it's a live radio station that everyone can just listen to together.
With a max of 30 people, yeah.
With the max, it's
Exclusive.
a Clubhouse,
And you hope
or it's
everyone
a
stays
Twitter
muted.
Spaces or whatever.
Yeah,
Someone
that would never go poorly on the
come in
internet.
and-
Hey, I was thinking something we were expecting Apple to do at DubDub was do some kind of social media thing.
MacBook.
Everyone, besides the MacBook. But I don't know. There were rumblings a couple
Social
weeks
media,
before,
really?
like, oh, there might be some kind of new iMessage social aspect to this with all the emojis and stuff.
because of the invite.
Yeah. Obviously, I think we're all glad that we don't have a iMessage book or whatever they would call it.
iMessage Plus.
iMessage.
Oh.
It goes back to Google Plus.
You're
No.
That's what it would be.
And it costs $10 a month. Oh no, Drew Starlinked right in the middle of the joke. He missed the punchline.
Oh, that was perfect too.
That was.
I'll wait for him to get back. Anyway,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
miss
Oh
you,
my
man.
goodness, that was
Hey,
so
there
funny.
he is. You missed my punchline, didn't you?
Yeah. Thank God.
So it would be the social media would be iMessage Plus, which is just
I
a
got
derivative of going back to Google Plus.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I forgot
Equally
Google Plus
successful.
existed, huh? Apple Plus.
We could do iTunes
Yeah,
King
that
Plus.
sounds weird. I'm not against the idea of Apple having a social media. I'm against there being a paid one, though. That sounds stupid.
That's ridiculous.
It's just Apple never found a right groove with it. They kept
The closest-
trying to...
No big company has found the right groove for social media.
All social media, all the biggest social medias were like startups. They were never like a big billion-dollar corporation that decided we are going to make this platform and then everybody started using it. It's always like, you know, your Clubhouse or your YouTube was a startup. Facebook was like,
or
you know,
TikTok.
Mark, you know, college student. I don't know about TikTok. That might be an exception.
I think that might be not a big company, but a big government that
Wasn't
started
it Musically?
It was Musically, and all you did was
The
lip sync.
The Chinese government started a social media network, and it's really cringy.
It used to be
but
just
it's
lip
hilarious.
singing, and that was it. Like,
Was it owned by a big corporation though, or was that
I have
like a
no idea.
startup?
It
I
was
don't
a
know
startup.
much about the upbringing. Okay, so that's not an exception. That's how it works. But Apple kept trying to build in some social media to music with Ping and then Apple Music Connect, and
Yep.
neither one worked out. But yeah, just I mean, there's so many crappy social medias that don't care about your privacy and kind of track your data. So I still personally think it'd be really interesting if Apple could get one working. Maybe if they just didn't try to position it with Apple Music so hard and just kind of tried to make something that you could share photos, videos, and texts, and
So
I don't know, some
Apple
kind of
Music-
Twitter alternative.
Connect was trying to get closer to it, but what I saw the problem come from that was that it was a social media platform for artists where
Right.
I could go there, post photos, do exclusive music or whatever there, and you can listen it from there, which is actually something that they took from a website called Bandcamp. And Bandcamp is a platform even I use where I put exclusives up there that I don't want to pay to stream whatever. It's a free Patreon, so to say, in the sense that you can see other things that I have listed there. I can even preview things for
Sure.
you. But if you want to buy it or you want to download the Logic project, if you want to download the music, whatever, if you want signs, you want videos, you could do that. Apple was trying to do something like that, but it was artist focused at first. And then everyone
Yeah.
else was like, oh my God, I love Taylor Swift or whatever. And then they would go there and do their thing. But
Right.
then they did away with it after like a year or two, where then it's like, all right, no more artists, whatever. Now it's just when you go to their page, when you search the artist name or the song or whatever, then that's their thing. And what they morphed that into was all of us with an iCloud account can now make playlists, and we could heart them, we could share them with one another, and then you can make a kind of a back and forth with an iCloud on that. But it's so skewed and in the background because they didn't try to make it better on that it's kind of there. In my opinion, Spotify has the better experience with that, with playlists, and also with the art. If you wanted to have an artist profile again, Spotify has the better one. I have way more control over that one than what you see on Apple Music. So that connection, that integration of sharing a piece of culture, which is music, from artist and fan, or artist and audience, it kind of missed the curve or missed the mark on Apple's side. But if they did all of what I was kind of just saying, and they gave you elements the way it goes cross system, with sharing photos and things now. If I text you a photo, it will show up in your Photos app through iCloud. If they did something like that, but now it kind of integrates into iMessage, and iMessage becomes the hub, so to say, of the social portion of anything, whether it's the music or the what have you. That's their iMessage becomes their closest launch pad for a social media platform, not music, not podcast, not Ping, but iMessage, because it's controlled, it's exclusive in the sense that you have to have an Apple device, and it is customizable to you, the account holder who wants to update their profile photo and push it out anyway. Seeing things Seeing you can update your name now, your profile, push it out. You can now set do not disturb and so it's like they're taking little pieces of like Skype here, little pieces of this, and you kind of make your own profile as is. You don't need their phone number anymore. You can use it off of an email as well. I wouldn't be the missing element is the reach portion, and I think it's smart that they haven't done it yet because it can get compromised. The reach portion of searching for somebody is the last element of calling iMessage a social platform. So I can't just go to my search on iMessage app and type in Nic and Sweeney and give me a list of, yep, that's the one I'm looking for, and click on that and try to connect, because the moment something like that happens, I see spamming happening again. I see hot locals in your area and all these, like, it'll get diluted.
Good
and I
luck
think Apple,
with that. There aren't any locals in my area.
but Apple's controlling it, like in the sense that they have overall control over it, and I see how you can pin things to the top and you can see your iMessages and who you want your favorites to be, which is cool as well. But the problem I feel is you can't then start banning people because it's part of your account, like your overall account.
Yeah.
You can't, like, if you do something wrong, if I send you an unsolicited song, you thought. But if I send you something unsolicited, you could block me, but I can't get banned.
Yeah.
And maybe Apple wants something where there is a bit more bannable features in the world of cancel culture. Who knows? You know, I don't know. But the terms of services would have to change at that point. And what makes iMessage so great is that it's none of that. So I feel Apple has been playing around with stuff like this as they've tried with Ping and Apple Music Connect. I think they've been trying around, and I think they also feel that iMessage would be the greatest launch pad for it, but it would have to be a separate feature, like unfortunately a tab in the app, which I don't want. I don't want a tab where it's like, here's my text messages or my DMs now, and then here's my everything else.
Yeah,
and,
that would be horrible.
I would hate that.
Me too.
Make a separate account, make a separate iMessage Plus or whatever you want to call it, and it should be a separate app. It should just be a separate app, and everything is pulled from iMessage or your iCloud account ultimately, but it takes the UI and the fundamentals of iMessage, but now it's the social platform. I think that's your best thing. But then what are you using it for? Is it just Apple's version of Discord then at this point? Is it it's not Twitter. It's not going to be like a Facebook or an Instagram. What at this point is what are you trying to do that makes you better? That besides we're Apple.
Besides owning Apple products, so you're a blue bubble. That automatically makes you better. But
right. But what now? Right. What are you offering in this social media platform? What are you bringing to the table that's like, yep, this is it. I can send you crazy reels or slide TikToks or whatever. Like
an edit button.
You don't an edit. Done
instantly. Twitter goes bankrupt. They're gone.
Stock
just like
crashes. And Jack Dorsey just goes all in on Bitcoin.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even think it needs to be baked into the iMessage app. I feel like you could make a very interesting platform if Apple just tried to make some kind of Twitter/YouTube hybrid service of just like it's its own app, but you sign in with your Apple ID and it supports Face ID and it's all Apple protected and encrypted, and it can brag about how private it is. But you can set up your own profile. You can set it to be private. You can set it to be public. Twitter video and picture compression is absolute trash. So
yes.
If they had a Apple version of that service, you could post, 4K HDR videos. You could do really high resolution photos and
but it'll eat up your 5 free gigabytes of iCloud storage.
Yeah, it'll tether off your iCloud. This will be an iCloud tethered social media. But yeah, you could, I think, make a really interesting platform if Apple just attempted one. I don't know. It sounds like they're not going to. But like, if you wanted to DM people on there, it would kind of incorporate through iMessage, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of room for improvement on current day social media. Like I remember, I think it was Viper saying how interested he would be in if Apple instead of doing TV Plus, which is like HBO Max competition, they got into like YouTube competition and having a freelance platform that anybody can upload to and generate income of. They kind of have that with the podcasts app. That's something anybody can upload to and post stuff to. And Spotify has adopted or is going to adopt a video format to the podcasts app. I'm sure Apple's probably talking about doing something
Apple
like that
already
eventually.
supports that.
Oh, they have videos within the podcast app as you're listening to it?
Yeah. You just have to have a hosting provider that can host an MP4 file, which are very rare. And most of them you have to set up yourself. So you'll see people like CNET or some of the bigger podcasting content creation houses will support that. But it's just an RSS feed. Yeah, it's already there.
Yeah.
It's just you have to host it, which is expensive and hard to do because you have to not just distribute a 100 megabyte audio file for now. You have to distribute a 2 gigabyte file to thousands of people in real time, which is more expensive. That's why we don't do this.
I'd love to see Apple get
on iTunes, for all you're wondering.
Yeah,
it's on YouTube.
For those curious. That's why. I'd be very curious to see Apple attempt some kind of social media platform, just because I feel like they have a very large audience, and there's probably a ton of people that could get into it. But it feels like
if
every
Craig
time they
was
try,
on
they
it,
don't
I
try
would be
very hard.
all over this social media.
Ooh, that's really a good point. Craig would change everything.
Greg has been doing a lot of
streams
interviews
with
this
Center
week.
Stage. Imagine.
Every day. Hey, so speaking of privacy, how Apple would promote that, have you noticed? I have a story. I did it in two different things. I went to my Google Drive to pull something down, and I get prompted with this thing saying, just so you know, Google Drive has not and will not use any of your data here to sell you personalized ads. And then you hit acknowledge or dismiss. I was like, I'm going to, and so then I'm like,
We
all
are
right, whatever.
super secure.
So
by
then
the way.
I go later on, a different day, I go into my Gmail. And at the very top, I get prompted with this thing. Just so you know, your mail from Google is never used to sell you ads.
super secure.
And I was like, wow, you guys are really pushing this. Now, that's the most ugliest.
Sounds like the car won't start. It's like turning over.
Yeah. So, privacy seems to now be Google's interest, or either that or Apple's been digging at them so hard that they
got so much data they don't know what to do with it. They're like, yeah, we don't need yours
We
data
don't need
anymore.
anymore.
We got it.
We're done. We know everything you're about to do before you do it. We don't need you.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, we don't need you anymore.
So that's an interesting point there, Randy. I've noticed signing in both on the Mac and on the iPad, running that new, what's that feature called? They hide your IP address, whatever that thing is.
It's private relay.
Private relay, yeah. I don't know if this
iCloud
is.
Plus.
I've never used a VPN with YouTube before, but YouTube asks me now every time I sign in and every time I go to post a video, it says, "Let's just make sure this is you," and it asks you to re-sign in, re-get a verification text. It's starting to get annoying. Like every time I'm in the YouTube Creator Studio app or in the on that side of YouTube, it's like, hey, let's make sure this is really you. And like sometimes I'll leave for 5 minutes and come back and it's like, hey, let's make sure this is you. And I'm just like, A, what was being tracked that I wasn't aware of that now isn't? And B, Google, it's me.
What
That's
are you
funny.
so worried about, Google? What did we just sever ties
Google-
with?
Google knows your location at all times to verify that it's you for your security. So now that it sees that you're logging in from random places that Private Relay is suggesting, now it's like, hey, that might not be him. So it's using your data to help you stay private.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
Interesting.
private in the first place.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. Like in one breath, I'm like, okay, well, this is nice. At least now I know that, even if someone did compromise my YouTube account, they'd have to, they wouldn't be able to be signed in indefinitely. At some point it'll say, hey, is this really you?
We
But
couldn't help but notice that
also
you
it's
went from
annoying.
the Netherlands all the way down to Syria. What's that about? Do you wanna
You
sign
know
back
that college
in for us real
humor
quick?
Google guy behind the desk? He's just like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so, I can't help but notice, but you moved from the Netherlands to Syria. What's up with that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Huh.
that'd be them.
Yeah,
But,
I
haven't thought
hope
about
that
that.
Google and Apple can kind of like figure out some other kind of handshake, because that's really annoying to
Yeah.
have to sign in every
I know
time.
they're best friends.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
they
They
are.
get
And they're working
along
on
well.
that standard, that HomeKit standard. So
Matter.
it matters.
And they're
I
also
hope
working on
everyone uses it.
keeping Apple very much wealthy with making Google their default search. So, there's a symbiotic relationship that's happening there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Literally gets paid billions a year to do nothing.
To do nothing.
Yeah.
Don't change this
Wait,
one
I
setting.
will give you
Okay.
$3 billion right now just to not go
3
over there
billion.
and look at it.
Try 9 billion, Randy. 9 billion.
I think
I
it
don't
goes up
have
every
9
year.
billion. I only have 3.
Okay, well, go
Tim
start
is
up a
just like-
successful startup, and then we'll talk.
Now it's 12 billion.
That's the first thing I do with any device when I set it up, or
Switch
first
to
thing I do,
DuckDuckGo?
I go to Safari, change it settings to DuckDuckGo, and every time I do it, I'm just like, oh Google, you paid so much money to have me not click this, and I'm gonna click it. Ooh,
I just costed you $9 billion.
Yeah, probably like $9.
We were watching a show called Trying.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. I like
at
that first
several
season. How's the second one?
It's all right.
Okay.
It's cute. It's not amazing, but it's
It's
just
cute.
a cute
Okay.
little comedy. But the characters were all doing these like searches, and there's this giant DuckDuckGo logo that shows up on their Macs and their iPads when they're like they're gonna look something up. It looks like a very out of place commercial. Like it's a very bizarre. They're just like DuckDuckGo, and they just start using it like everybody uses it. And I was like, this feels very out of place.
Don't you know
Sometimes
with
I'm like,
the
just Google it.
award-winning interface, you can now go to dark mode?
It was like painfully obvious, which is always what I would joke about when we would watch any show on Apple TV Plus, is that if someone's in the middle of a situation, they would just break out into like an Apple commercial.
Yeah.
They'd be like, honey, look at this shot I got on my iPhone 12 Pro Max with the 2.5x telephoto lens. And they would like look at the camera too. And they'd like break character.
Honestly, that would be pretty funny.
Like
I
we
love
watched
that TV
The
show.
Servant, which
Hey,
is more
Jennifer
of like
Aniston, how are you going to make that phone call? Right here.
the microphone isolates out background
Thanks,
audio.
Jake
in
Gyllenhaal.
Like there's all kinds of little ad breaks that I thought they were going to break into, that it felt like that with the DuckDuckGo, because they would just pull out their iPad and it would already be on DuckDuckGo's search bar. And I was like, no one does that, Apple, come on. This just feels kind of weird. But it was cute. I laughed. I was like, someone pulls that. I don't know. It's like someone... It's like, let's go shopping today, and they all go to the Apple store, and they're like in slow-mo, buying watch bands and
Throwing
multi-port
$100 bills.
They're like, wow, thank you, Apple. We love it. It gets a little meta, though, right? Because it's like, it's an Apple show, but they're using Apple hardware.
But they can't
Like-
use the iPad Pro on their red Komodos, so
No. But also, like, if the character is using that Apple product, you know they got an ad for Apple TV Plus at some point. You know, like, if you see Macs in the show, they have everybody's Mac now. This is something that also kind of annoys me, is that nobody changes their dock in most TV shows and movies. So every Mac that someone has is the podcast app, the TV app, even NASA. Like, we were watching some NASA broadcast, and they had a macOS, and it had TV app, podcast app, music app. And I was like, they don't use those. They're just there. Everybody has them around. No one actually opens that app.
Wow.
I
it's
don't.
like the uncle at the party. You don't know why he's there or how he got there, but he's there.
He's not related to anybody. He's just there.
We call him.
Whose uncle is this? That guy owes me $5. He asked me for some money.
Do we have closing thoughts, Jens?
Not on that astute.
Not on that.
Not on that astute note. No. I'm
Apple,
good.
you messed up the iPad for me. I'm very disappointed. I'm never
I
going to
give up.
financially recover from this situation.
That's my ending statement for iPad. I give up. It's
I
gone.
I know I said it last time. I'll say it here again. I am very much awake now. iPad is not dead to me, but you are not. You could have been so much more. I'm so disappointed.
I see it as like you're done growing.
Yeah, like, all right, well, you know what? You've had all this time, and I'm gonna cancel my LTE on it. I'm gonna everything that I was super, prepping for. Yeah, I'm the hardware never did me wrong. The software, the soul of it, what makes it matter. I'm tired. I wish I could quit you. I quit.
I quit.
I quit. Yeah, I'm done.
I quit.
Maybe it's time for the Macs to shine. Maybe when the Macs are done shining, they'll change their mind on the iPad.
The missing element for the Mac is put LTE on that sucker,
no
and that's
idea
it.
how many
That'd be
times this week I've wanted that. Just like sitting here
I have a
connecting to the
bunch of things.
hotspot on my phone, and I'm just like, I really wish I didn't have to do this.
I want 120 hertz. I want Face ID. I want center stage. That would be amazing. Yes, cellular as well. Throw that in. And yeah,
Memojis.
okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I also think the idea of iPadOS dual booting doesn't have to be restricted to just the iPad, because if we had like a Surface Studio like iMac, and then when you pivot it down, it turns into iPadOS, and you have this like giant canvas to draw on that's got Apple Pencil connectivity on the side, and Apple, you can charge whatever you want for this. People will pay it. Whatever that expensiveness, but just put like Mac Mini in the base, connected to this giant digital canvas. I don't know. I want that. I could have one device instead of two.
How sad in another universe this is happening right now.
That's true.
I'm in the wrong universe.
We got to move over.
How do we do
You got to universal control me over to
There
to
you
the right
go.
It's a
universe.
watchOS feature. Universal control me to another.
Yep.
Well, any
Is Apple
closing
gonna
thoughts
get
on these
sued for
closing
that
thoughts?
animation? They're like, you can't do that with the watch.
Silly thing.
I'm gonna sue you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great week.